Hi, my name is Richard Cassavant. I'm one of the authors of the Boston Rules, Building Relationships Like a Dog. And today I want to talk about one of the rules. There are 11 rules in the book. And I'd like to talk to you about rule number 2. I think what I'd like to do today is define some terms, because when you look at the issues of accepting others as they are today, it is the cause of much of the conflict that we have in the world. And our inability to understand someone else in terms of our assumptions and biases prevents us from working well together. Remember that we build businesses at the speed of relationship. Business moves at the speed of relationships. If a high involvement work team is working well together, you know the relationships are meaningful and they're understanding each other in order to get something done. So let's define a couple terms. Accepting others as they are. First term, acceptance. What is it? Most of the people say that I accept this or I accept that. What does that mean? It means that when you experience something like a person or a situation, or you're in a certain time, or you're doing something, when you accept it, you don't resist it. And when I say resist, I'm talking about the idea of physically, where we get up and leave, mentally, where we're thinking one thing and we want to say it, but it would be very disruptive, or spiritually or attitudinal, where we act non-verbally a certain way. So accepting others as they are has to do with acceptance. And let's look at another term, tolerance. What is tolerance? When people have different definitions for the same word, we get into conflict. So that's why I'm defining what acceptance and what tolerance means. And when we tolerate something, we allow the situation or the experience or the occurrence or the person to do what it is that they do, or to be who they are without interference, even though we may not agree with it. The key issue here is that tolerance does not interfere with anything that happens. Acceptance is where there is no resistance. So those two terms, acceptance and tolerance, are very important to understand as it relates to the second rule, accept others as they are. And dogs, when we look at acceptance and tolerance, do this very well. As a matter of fact, we see videos throughout the internet where the most unlikely of partners or the most unlikely of support groups get together, like a cat and a bird, or a dog and a cow, or perhaps say an elephant and a goat. And we see these and we love to watch them because it is so contrary to how we would behave. But when animals accept others as they are, they don't get into some of these diversity issues, which is another term. A diversity issue based on religion, a diversity issue based on color, or race, or gender, or sexual orientation. Diversity issues are not issues with animals because they don't deal with the idea that one culture is better than another culture, or this person learns this way or communicates this way. The differences are just something that is. It is just something that is for animals, rather than with people. It conjures up a whole set of silent biases or hidden biases. And many times in the workplace, that's what prevents relationships from working. So you've heard it said, diversity and inclusion. Well, what is inclusion? Well, inclusion is the idea of a work environment that allows us to go ahead and show support for the differences when it comes to perceptions, or the differences when it comes to talents, or the differences when it comes to contributions. And so when we have an inclusive workplace, we celebrate those differences because it is the differences that give us clarity as to whether or not we are on the right team or doing the right thing. And so when we look at accept others as they are, and we can watch our pets do that very well, we can walk down the street like them and see somebody who is homeless and think there is no difference. One person's status is very different than the others, but it doesn't make any difference in terms of our acceptance. But to many people it would. And so accept others as they are deals with some of the issues of acceptance and tolerance and diversity and inclusion, and it brings us to a point where if we understand the following precept, we will be able to build relationships like a dog. In 1925, they made a movie called Inherit the Wind. It was about the Scopes monkey trial where an arguing lawyer said to the judge, "We have never learned anything from anyone who agrees with us." And how true that is. It is the differences in our world and in our lives and in our workplace and in our friends and in our families that make us who we are, because by the differences we gain clarity based on what it is that we really do want to be and what it is we want to do. So accept others as they are, rule number 2 in the Boston Rules, Building Relationships Like a Dog, has a very significant business application to it. And all we have to do is realize that when it comes to the idea of acceptance without resistance, and tolerance without interference, and diversity based on different strengths, and inclusiveness based on the environment, we're then able to understand the value of we have never learned anything from anyone who has agreed with us, and how true that is. That's rule number 2, accept others as they are, from the book, The Boston Rules. You can download the first rule, Welcome, 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 from our website, www.thebostonrules.com. And thanks for listening to the second rule, rule number 2, accept others as they are, and helping me and others to create a kinder, more accepting world by building kinder, more accepting relationships. I'll see you again on another video where we'll look at rule number 7, let's get physical, and rule number 8, live your passion, all having to do with the idea of service in our companies and to others.